Liam stood in the chaos of O'Hare and told me he needed a break just moments before his 3-week Eurotrip. He thought our engagement was a subscription he could pause at will. He forgot that I am a forensic accountant who spots fraud for a living. I did not cry as he walked away. Instead, I opened my laptop to liquidate his assets and freeze his accounts. His audit begins now. My name is Harper Vance, and I am a 29-year-old forensic accountant who specializes in finding things people desperately want to keep hidden. I stood amidst the cacophony of Terminal 3 at O'Hare International Airport, surrounded by the frenetic energy of travelers rushing to their gates. The air smelled of stale coffee and floor wax. My fiancé, Liam Sterling, stood before me, clutching his passport like a lifeline. He was about to board a flight for a 3-week Eurotrip with his college friends, a final hurrah before our wedding, which was scheduled for 3 months from now. I reached out to smooth the collar of his navy blazer, a reflex born of 5 years of intimacy. The fabric felt cool under my fingers. To any observer, we were the picture of a perfect Chicago couple saying a temporary goodbye. I smiled, ready to wish him a safe flight. But Liam flinched. He pulled back slightly, avoiding my gaze as he stared at a point somewhere over my left shoulder. Harper. Liam started, his voice cracking just enough to sound rehearsed. I think we need a break. I need space to think about everything. The roar of the airport seemed to be sucked out of the room, replaced by a high-pitched ringing in my ears. I did not blink. I did not gasp. My training took over instantly. In my line of work, you learn to ignore what people say and watch what they do. I scanned his body language with the same scrutiny I applied to a fraudulent tax return. His shoulders were slumped forward in a performance of heavy-hearted guilt, but his feet were pointed directly toward the security checkpoint. He was physically bracing himself to run. A break, I asked, my voice steady. It is just the pressure of the wedding, Liam stammered, his hands fidgeting with the handle of his carry-on. I feel suffocated. I need these 3 weeks to breathe. Just, please, do not make a scene. Wait for me. We will talk when I get back. He was framing his abandonment as a reasonable request for mental health. He wanted me to remain in a suspended state of animation, a faithful dog waiting by the door while he romped across Europe. Behind him, near the entrance to the security queue, I saw his group of friends. They were laughing and checking their phones. One of them waved. I saw the spark of excitement ignite in Liam's eyes, a sharp contrast to the mournful expression he forced back onto his face a second later. I have to go, he muttered. The guys are waiting. Just sit tight. Okay. He turned and walked away. He did not look back once. He merged into the line for TSA pre-check, indistinguishable from the hundreds of other businessmen leaving the city. I pulled my phone from my trench coat pocket and dialed his number. The call failed instantly. He had blocked me before he even reached the metal detectors. Most women would have collapsed onto the nearest bench and wept. Most women would have chased him to the security barrier, begging for an explanation. But I am not most women. I stood completely still in the middle of the concourse while the stream of humanity parted around me. My brain did not process heartbreak, it processed data. This was not a romantic crisis. This was a breach of contract. This was an embezzlement of my time and emotional capital. I turned on my heel and walked out of the terminal. I did not drive to the apartment we shared in Lincoln Park. I could not bear the thought of seeing his toothbrush or the half-empty mug of coffee he had left on the counter. Instead, I drove straight to the Loop. The city was gray and imposing under the overcast sky. I pulled into the underground garage of my firm's skyscraper. The office was deserted on a Saturday afternoon. The silence was absolute, a sterilized environment where logic reigned supreme. I sat at my desk and opened my laptop. The screen glowed with a comforting, familiar blue light. I did not open a digital diary to pour out my feelings. I opened a new spreadsheet. I typed in the file name with precise, rhythmic keystrokes, relationship audit file. If Liam wanted space, I would give him nothingness. If he thought he could hide the true nature of this transaction, he was sorely mistaken. I cracked my knuckles and began to type. The audit had officially begun. I returned to the luxury apartment we rented in the Gold Coast district, the key turning in the lock with a heavy, final click. The air inside was cool and still, but it carried the lingering scent of sandalwood and Cedar Liam's cologne. Just this morning, that smell had made me feel safe, anchored. Now, it hung in the air like a contaminant, a cloying reminder of the man who had just abandoned me at the airport. I did not take off my coat. I did not kick off my heels. I walked straight to the kitchen island, placed my laptop on the marble counter, and treated the space not as a home, but as a crime scene. Let's see what you have been up to. Liam, I whispered to the empty room. I logged into our joint banking portal. My fingers flew across the keyboard, executing the same rigorous scrutiny I applied to corporate embezzlers. I pulled up the statement for the supplementary credit card I had given him 2 years ago. It was intended strictly for emergencies: a flat tire, a medical copay, a lost wallet. Instead, I saw a stream of transactions that painted a very different picture. My eyes narrowed as I flagged a charge from 3 days ago. It was a purchase for a business class ticket on the same flight he was currently on, but the passenger name was not one of his college friends. It was booked for a passenger listed as M.K. I murmured, tapping my fingernail against the screen. Who are you? I cross-referenced the seat assignment. Liam was in seat 4A. M.K. was in seat 4B. This was not a rowdy trip with the boys. He was sitting shoulder to shoulder with someone else. A cold knot formed in my stomach, but I forced it down. Emotion is the enemy of analysis. I needed more data. I glanced at the coffee table where Liam's iPad lay dormant. He was terrible with digital hygiene, constantly forgetting to log out of his accounts. I picked it up and unlocked it with the passcode he had never bothered to change his birthday. I navigated to the cloud photo stream. The main gallery was innocent enough, mostly pictures of his car and a few shots of us from dinner last week. But a forensic accountant knows that the truth is rarely in the main folder. The truth is always in the trash. I opened the recently deleted album. There were 24 items slated for permanent deletion in 29 days. I tapped the first image. It was a candid shot of Liam laughing, holding a velvet box. I swiped to the next. He was in a jewelry store, but not the one where he had bought my engagement ring. He was holding up a ring with a pear-shaped diamond, a style I had explicitly told him I hated. You didn't... I breathed out, my voice trembling slightly. You absolute coward. I swiped faster. The next image was a screenshot of a digital invoice for a hotel in Paris. It was for the Royal Monceau. He had booked the honeymoon suite. The special requests section at the bottom of the invoice read, "Please arrange red rose petals on the bed and champagne upon arrival." I checked the timestamp on the screenshot. It was dated 2 months ago. The realization hit me with the force of a physical blow. 2 months ago. We were sitting in our favorite Italian restaurant, finalizing the menu for our wedding reception. He had held my hand across the table, looked me in the eye, and discussed whether we should serve sea bass or filet mignon. All the while, he had this reservation sitting in his inbox. He had been planning this escape, this romantic getaway with me, Kay. At the exact same time, he was playing the role of the devoted fiancé. I sat there for a long moment, the silence of the apartment pressing in on me. The grief I had felt at the airport began to curdle. It hardened, cooling rapidly into something sharp and metallic. The tears that had threatened to fall evaporated. I was no longer a heartbroken woman. I was a hunter who had just found the prey's trail. "You want a break?" "Liam," I said aloud, my voice ice cold. "I will give you a break. You will never recover from..." I did not call him. I did not scream. I turned back to my laptop and initiated the first phase of my response. I logged into our internet service provider and changed the Wi-Fi password. Then, I went down the list of every streaming service, food delivery app, and smart home device we shared, one by one. I changed the passwords and selected the option to log out of all devices, thousands of miles away. As he settled into his lie, his digital world was beginning to go dark. This was just the beginning of his isolation. I cracked my neck, took a deep breath, and prepared to dig deeper. The initials M.K. were not a difficult puzzle for someone with my skill set to solve. I cross-referenced Liam's recent social media interactions with the passenger manifest details I had gleaned from the airline receipt. It took me less than 10 minutes to find a match: Mallory Kent. She was not just anyone, she was the 22-year-old daughter of the chief financial officer at Stratus Dynamics, the direct market competitor to Liam's firm. I pulled up her Instagram profile. It was a curated shrine to excess. While my feed was private and consisted mostly of architectural photos and book recommendations, Mallory's was a public broadcast of wealth. She was blonde, bubbly, and posed in locations that cost more to visit than most people earned in a year. I created a burner account, a fake profile with a generic name and a stock photo of a landscape to view her stories without alerting her. The ring around her profile picture glowed a tempting gradient of pink and orange. I tapped it. The first image was a boomerang of 2 glasses of champagne clinking in a business-class lounge. The caption read, "Finally, just the two of us." My eyes scanned the edges of the frame. In the bottom right corner, barely visible, was the cuff of a gray wool coat with a distinctive herringbone pattern. I stopped breathing for a second. I had bought that coat for Liam last Christmas. I had spent 3 hours finding the perfect fit. Seeing it there, serving as a prop in another woman's romantic narrative, felt like a physical violation. "You are not just cheating, Liam," I muttered to the screen, my voice low and dangerous. "You are networking." It made perfect sense. Liam was obsessed with status. He wasn't just sleeping with Mallory, he was auditing her lifestyle to see if it offered a better return on investment than ours. He was playing the role of the successful young executive, likely funding this charade with money he did not actually have. That thought triggered a new hypothesis. If he was spending this recklessly, where was the capital coming from? I turned back to his laptop. Liam often used his personal computer for work to bypass the strict firewall restrictions at his office. He had cached his work email credentials in the browser. It was a security nightmare. But right now, it was my greatest asset. I accessed his sent folder and filtered for attachments containing spreadsheets. I found a project budget file modified 3 days ago. I opened it and compared the figures against the actual vendor invoices he had saved in a subfolder. The math did not add up. There was a discrepancy of $5,000 labeled as consultation fees, directed to a shell vendor account that I recognized. It was the same digital wallet he used for online sports betting. "Got you," I whispered. He had embezzled project funds to pay for his romantic getaway. This was no longer a domestic dispute. This was a felony. I downloaded every email, every falsified invoice, and every budget sheet. I saved them to an encrypted external hard drive. This was my nuclear option. I could end his career with a single click. I closed the laptop and picked up my phone. I called our landlord. "Mr. Henderson," I said, keeping my tone professional. "This is Harper Vance. I am calling to exercise the early termination clause in my lease. Yes, I am aware of the penalty. I will pay it in full. I want the unit vacated before the 1st of the month. The lease was in my name because my credit score was 80 points higher than Liam's. He was effectively a guest in my home. And I was evicting him. Just as I hung up, my phone buzzed. A text message from Liam appeared on the screen. I arrived safely. Miss you. I just need time to think about us. Do not worry. The audacity was breathtaking. He was still trying to keep me on the hook, a safety net in case his gamble with Mallory failed. I did not reply. Instead, I took a screenshot of his text. Then, I switched back to Instagram. Mallory had just posted a new photo. They were in Paris now, standing in front of the Eiffel Tower. Liam's arm was wrapped tight around her waist, and he was looking at her with a practiced adoration. I took a screenshot of that, too. I placed the two images side by side on my monitor, his text claiming he needed space to think, and the photo of him clinging to another woman. "Think about this. Liam," I said, tracing his smiling face on the screen. "Because you are going to have a lot of time to think when you are in a jail cell." I did not resort to the cliché of throwing his clothes off the balcony. That would have been messy, and I despise mess. Instead, I went to a discount moving supply store and purchased the flimsiest, cheapest cardboard boxes available. I began the process of erasing Liam Sterling from my living space with the efficiency of a crime scene cleaner. I sorted his possessions into two categories: assets and liabilities. The assets specifically, the luxury items I had purchased for him, were immediately seized. The vintage chronograph watch I gave him for his 28th birthday was photographed and listed on a high-end resale site. It sold within 40 minutes for $2,500. I transferred the funds directly to my savings account. That was my initial return on investment. The liabilities, his clothes, his college memorabilia, his mediocre book collection, received a different treatment. I set up the ironing board. It seemed like a gesture of love, but it was an act of sabotage. I pressed his shirts with crisp, sharp lines. Then, I took a bottle of generic fabric refresher I had bought at a dollar store, a scent called Tropical Breeze that smelled like chemical coconuts and desperation. Liam had a sensitive nose. He hated anything that didn't smell like Italian leather or cedar. I sprayed every single inch of his wardrobe with the cloying mist. By the time he unpacked these boxes, he would smell like a discount motel room. As I cleared out the heavy oak bookcase in the living room, I found it. Tucked behind a row of hardcover thrillers was a shoebox I had never seen before. I opened it, expecting sentimental keepsakes. Instead, I found a notebook. It was a ledger. I flipped through the pages. It was a list of women. My name was there: Harper Vance, senior auditor, stable income, low maintenance, good credit. Further down was a new entry: Mallory Kent, Stratus heiress, high yield, high maintenance, short-term investment. I stared at the page. The last lingering shred of heartbreak inside me evaporated, replaced by a cold, hard clarity. I was not a woman he had fallen out of love with. I was a financial instrument that had matured and was being traded for a more volatile, high-reward stock. I was not losing a soulmate. I was excising a financial parasite. I picked up my phone. It was time to bring Mallory into the fold. This was not about jealousy. It was about professional courtesy between victims of fraud. I opened my burner Instagram account and navigated to her direct messages. I attached the photo of my engagement ring, the screenshot of Liam's "We need a break" text from the airport, and a simple message: he isn't single, he is on a break, and he is using your money. Mallory's response was immediate and hostile. "You are pathetic," she wrote back. "Liam told me about you. You are the obsessive ex-girlfriend who refuses to let go. Stop stalking us or I will call the police." I let out a dry, humorless laugh. She was following the script Liam had written for her perfectly. I did not argue. I simply opened the folder of evidence I had compiled from Liam's cloud data. I found a screenshot of a group chat between Liam and his fraternity brothers from 3 days ago. I highlighted one specific message from Liam: "Mallory is kind of annoying. Honestly? But she is a mobile ATM. I just have to nod and smile for 3 weeks, and I get a free Eurotrip. Worth it." I sent the image to her. "He calls you a mobile ATM." I typed, "Enjoy your romantic dinner." I watched the screen. The little icon indicating she was typing appeared. It pulsed for a long, agonizing moment. Then, it disappeared. She did not reply. She did not block me. The silence that followed was heavy and pregnant with doubt. I knew exactly what was happening in Paris right now. The seed had been planted, and it was going to rot their vacation from the inside out. 2 days later, my phone buzzed at 3 in the morning. It was a video call from the burner account I had used to contact Mallory. I swiped to accept and saw a tear-streaked face illuminated by the harsh, fluorescent light of a bathroom vanity. Mallory was sitting on the tiled floor of a hotel bathroom in Rome, clutching her knees to her chest. He is asleep, Mallory whispered, her voice trembling violently. I looked at his phone while he was in the shower. I saw the messages you sent. He told me you were his housekeeper. He said you were obsessed with him, that he fired you months ago, but you kept stalking him. I sat up in bed, the adrenaline kicking in instantly. A housekeeper. That is a new one, even for him. I feel so stupid, she choked out, pressing a manicured hand over her mouth to stifle a sob. I thought he was different. Mallory, listen to me. I commanded softly but firmly. Stop crying. I need you to do exactly what I say. Is his wallet nearby? It is in his jacket. On the chair. She sniffed, wiping her nose with the back of her hand. Go get it. Quietly. I watched the screen as she crept out of the frame. She returned 10 seconds later, clutching Liam's leather wallet with shaking hands. Open it, I instructed. Look for the black credit card tucked behind his driver's license. Read the name on it. She pulled the card out and squinted at it. Her eyes went wide. Harper Vance. That is right, I said, my voice steady. He is not just cheating on me. Mallory, he is paying for your Roman holiday with my money. And I bet he has been dropping your father's name to his friends to borrow cash. Hasn't he? Mallory's face hardened? The sorrow in her eyes was being replaced by the same cold fury I had felt at the airport. He put the hotel on this card. He said it was his corporate expense account. I want to wake him up. I want to scream at him right now. No, I said sharply. Do not wake him. If you confront him now, he will lie. He will gaslight you. He will say I forged that card or stole his identity. You need to wait. Wait for what? We are going to burn his life to the ground. Mallory. But we need to coordinate our strike to make sure he has nothing left. Can you act? Can you pretend for 3 more days that everything is perfect? She took a deep, shuddering breath and looked at her reflection in the mirror. I can try. I want him to hurt like I am hurting. He will, I promised. You keep him happy. Make him think he has won the lottery. I will handle the rest from here. We hung up and I went to work. The alliance was formed. I opened the folder containing the evidence of his embezzlement. I attached every damning spreadsheet, every falsified invoice, and the internal budget reports. In the subject line, I typed urgent internal fraud investigation, Liam Sterling. I sent it anonymously to the legal department of Stratus Dynamics, the company where Liam worked. By the time he landed, his security badge would be nothing more than a piece of plastic. Next, I picked up the phone to cancel the wedding vendors. I called the florist, the caterer, and the venue one by one, calmly citing a sudden change of plans. However, I made one exception. I called our photographer, a man named David who charged $400 an hour. David, I need to change the booking details. I told him, instead of a wedding, I need you at O'Hare International Airport, Terminal 3, this coming Sunday. I want you to capture a very specific moment. Finally, I drafted the masterpiece of my revenge. I opened a new email draft and added the email addresses of every single guest invited to our wedding. I added his parents, his siblings, and even his direct supervisor. Subject: the wedding is off, and here is why I did not write a long, emotional letter. I simply wrote Liam and I are taking a permanent break. If you want to know why he really went to Europe, click the link below. I pasted the link to a public drive folder. Inside were the photos of him and Mallory in Paris, the screenshots of his texts calling her an ATM, the credit card statements showing him spending my money on her, and the chat logs where he mocked his own friends. I glanced at the clock. Liam's flight was scheduled to land in Chicago at 4 o'clock in the afternoon on Sunday. I set the email to auto-send at exactly 4 o'clock and 1 minute. Checkmate, I whispered to the empty room. The final week before Liam's scheduled return was a study in controlled demolition. I had already vacated the apartment 7 days prior to his arrival. I did not move out in a frenzy of tears and packing tape. I moved out with the precision of a military operation. The only things remaining in the unit were the cardboard boxes containing his belongings, stacked like a monument to his failure in the center of the living room. I had leased a new loft in Wicker Park, a neighborhood far removed from the pretentious social circles Liam desperately tried to infiltrate. My new space was filled with light, exposed brick, and the intoxicating scent of freedom. For 5 years, I had been carrying the dead weight of Liam's insecurities and financial incompetence. Now, sitting on my own velvet sofa, I felt lighter than I had in a decade. My phone chimed with a notification from Liam. I am close to finding the answer for us. The distance is hard, but necessary. I love you. I didn't need to guess the context. Mallory had texted me 10 minutes earlier to tell me that Liam sent that message while she was in the bathroom, right before they went out for a gondola ride in Venice. She told me she had to bite her lip to keep from laughing in his face. I did not reply to him. I had one final loose end to tie up before the grand finale. I drove to Lake Forest to visit Liam's parents, Richard and Cynthia. They lived in a sprawling estate that smelled of old money and judgment. They had always tolerated me rather than accepted me, viewing my job as a forensic accountant as blue-collar work compared to Liam's finance career. Cynthia met me in the drawing room, her eyes scanning my ringless finger with disapproval. "Harper," she said, her voice dripping with condensation. "Liam told us you were taking a break. I assume you are here to apologize for whatever drama you have caused." I reached into my purse and pulled out the velvet box containing the heirloom engagement ring. I placed it gently on the coffee table. "I am not here to apologize. Cynthia," I said calmly, "I am here to return your property." Cynthia stared at the box, her face flushing a blotchy red. "You are ending the engagement over a little time apart. You are being incredibly selfish." "I think you should ask your son about the definition of selfish," I replied, standing up to leave, "And while you have him on the phone, perhaps you should ask him about the $30,000 in gambling debts he told you were investment losses last year. I found the ledger. He did not lose that money in the stock market. He lost it on online poker." That is a lie," Cynthia gasped, clutching her pearls. "Liam doesn't gamble. Check his bank statements," I said. "Goodbye, Cynthia." As I walked to my car, I saw Richard frantically dialing Liam's number through the bay window. I knew Liam wouldn't answer. He was currently busy playing the role of the perfect gentleman for Mallory in Italy, unaware that his safety net back home had just been set on fire. By Friday, the silent alarm I had triggered at Stratus Dynamics was ringing loud and clear. I received a discreet notification that Liam's corporate email account had been suspended pending an internal investigation. His salary account, which I had monitored, was now frozen. The trap was not just set, the jaws were beginning to close. On Saturday afternoon, I walked into the lobby of the office building where Liam worked. I approached the security desk and handed over my visitor pass and the spouse access card Liam had given me years ago. "I won't be needing these anymore." I told the guard, "Please remove Harper Vance from the authorized entry list." As I walked out into the cool Chicago air, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Mallory. "It is done. He just booked a new ticket. He is flying back a day early to surprise you. He thinks you are sitting at home crying, waiting for him to save you." I smiled, a sharp, dangerous curve of my lips. He was coming home to a stage I had set perfectly. I opened the app for the smart lock on our old apartment. I deleted my admin code. I deleted his old code. Then, I programmed a single, one-time use code for him. It would allow him to enter the apartment exactly one time. Once the door closed behind him, the code would expire, and he would be locked inside with nothing but his boxes and the reality of what he had done. "Come on home, Liam," I whispered. "We are all waiting for you." Liam boarded his flight to Chicago with the swagger of a man who believed he had just pulled off the heist of the century. He settled into his business class seat, confident that he had successfully closed the deal with Mallory Kent. In his mind, he was returning home to manage his portfolio of women. He planned to let me down gently, or perhaps keep me on the hook as a reliable backup plan while he pursued the Stratus heiress. He had no idea that the ground beneath his feet had already been mined. Mallory had played her part to perfection. She sent me a text detailing their goodbye at the airport in Rome. She had given him a long, lingering kiss, a Judas kiss, and promised to fly to the States to visit him in 2 weeks. "I will count the hours. Liam." She had told him, her voice trembling with fake emotion. "Do not forget me." He believed every word. As his plane taxied down the runway, Mallory was already boarding a private charter to the Maldives for a solo detox trip, paid for by the refund she got from canceling the rest of their couple's itinerary. For 9 hours. Liam floated at 35,000 feet, sipping champagne and dreaming of a future where he never had to worry about a credit card limit again. He was disconnected from the world, encased in a metal tube of ignorance. But while he slept, the digital timer I had set on my laptop hit 0. At exactly 4 o'clock in the afternoon, while Liam was somewhere over the Atlantic Ocean, my automated system engaged. The email with the subject line, "The truth about the break," hit the inboxes of everyone who mattered. His mother, his father, his siblings, and every single guest on our wedding list received the link. Simultaneously, the notifications on my phone began to light up like fireworks. Mallory dropped the hammer on Instagram. She posted a photo she had taken of Liam sleeping with his mouth open on a train in Venice. It was unflattering and raw. The caption read, "The worst scammer of the century." He thought he could use my credit card to fund his ego trip while his fiancé waited at home. Good luck with the wife-to-be. Liam. I hope she has a good lawyer. She tagged me directly in the photo. The internet did what the internet does best. It exploded. My phone buzzed incessantly. The group chat for Liam's Eurotrip boys, the friends who had covered for him, the ones who had waved at me at the airport, was in chaos. "Harper, I swear I did not know." One of them texted, "He told us you guys were in an open relationship." Another pleaded, "Please do not include me in this." I sat on the floor of my new, empty apartment in Wicker Park, a glass of Pinot Noir in my hand, watching the destruction of Liam's reputation unfold in real time. It was better than any movie. I scrolled through the comments on Mallory's post. Strangers were already vilifying him. His college friends were distancing themselves. Then came the notification I had been waiting for, a forwarded email from the HR department at Stratos Dynamics. It was a blind copy sent to my personal email, likely by a sympathetic paralegal who had seen my initial report. "Dear Mr. Sterling," it began. "Effective immediately. Your employment with Stratus Dynamics is terminated pending a criminal investigation into the embezzlement of company funds." He was fired. He was single. He was a social pariah, and he did not know it yet. At 7 o'clock in the evening, the flight from Rome touched down at O'Hare. I imagined Liam waiting for the seatbelt sign to turn off, reaching into his pocket to retrieve his phone. He probably expected a few texts from me asking when he would be home. He probably planned to text Mallory to say he had landed safely. He held the power button. The screen illuminated. Usually, a phone takes a few seconds to connect to the network, but the moment Liam's device found a signal, it practically convulsed in his hand. The vibration was continuous, a long, violent buzz that did not stop. Thousands of emails, hundreds of missed calls, and an avalanche of social media notifications hit the device all at once. The processor could not handle the influx of hate. I took a sip of wine and whispered to the empty room, "Welcome home, honey." I did not need to be standing next to Liam at O'Hare International Airport to know exactly what his face looked like. I knew the specific shade of ashen gray that washed over him when his world collapsed because I had seen it once before. Years ago, when he failed his broker license exam. He stood frozen in the middle of the arrivals hall, a statue of arrogance crumbling into dust while the busy current of travelers parted around him. He stared at his phone, his thumb scrolling frantically. The blood drained from his cheeks as he read the subject lines. Termination of employment. The wedding is off. You scumbag. He tried to gain control of the narrative. His first instinct, naturally, was to call his co-conspirator. He dialed Mallory. The call did not even ring. It went straight to a disconnect tone. She had blocked him the moment she posted that photo. Come on, pick up. You psycho. Liam hissed at the screen, his voice rising in panic. Do not do this to me. He switched tactics and called his mother. He needed money, and he needed reassurance. He got neither. Mom, I do not know what is happening. I just landed and you embarrassed us. Cynthia's voice screeched so loudly through the receiver that a passing flight attendant turned her head. Gambling debts. My son, using Harper's money like a common thief. Do not come to this house. Liam, do not dare show your face until you fix this mess. The line went dead. Liam stood there, his mouth opening and closing like a fish on dry land. He looked around wildly, realizing he was exposed. He grabbed the handle of his suitcase filled with Italian leather goods he had bought with stolen funds and marched toward the taxi stand. He needed to get away. He needed a luxury sedan with tinted windows. He handed his corporate credit card to the driver of a waiting black car. The driver swiped it. The machine beeped an angry, red refusal. Declined, the driver said, holding the card out. That is impossible. Run it again, Liam stammered, sweat beginning to bead on his forehead. It is a corporate account. There is no limit. It says, call the bank. Pal, do you have another card? He pulled out his personal debit card. Declined. He tried the credit card I had given him. Declined. The driver lost patience. Get out of the line if you cannot pay. The driver snapped. Liam Sterling, a man who prided himself on flying business class and wearing custom suits, had to drag his luggage down the escalator to the Blue Line train station. He sat on the hard plastic seat of the subway car, surrounded by the smell of damp coats and ozone. He squeezed his eyes shut as the train rattled toward the city. However, the human mind is a fascinating thing, especially the mind of a narcissist. By the time the train passed the Logan Square stop, Liam had stopped panicking and started plotting. He began to rewrite reality to suit his needs. He convinced himself that this was all a misunderstanding that he could charm his way out of. He told himself that I was weak. He believed that I was sitting at home, crying my eyes out, desperate for him to walk through the door. She loves me, he whispered to his reflection in the dirty train window, adjusting his tie. She is just hurt. I will tell her I came back early for her. I will tell her Mallory meant nothing, that she seduced me, but I realized my mistake. He built a castle of lies in his head, brick by brick. By the time he reached our building in the Gold Coast, he had convinced himself he was the hero of the story. He walked into the lobby with his chin up. The concierge, a man named Ralph who had worked there for 10 years, looked up from his desk. Ralph had seen the emails. He had seen the Instagram posts. He looked at Liam not with respect, but with a mixture of profound pity and disgust. Evening, Mr. Sterling, Ralph said, his tone dry. Liam ignored him and strode to the elevator. His heart was hammering against his ribs. He checked his reflection in the mirrored walls of the elevator car. He practiced his expression. He drooped his shoulders. He furrowed his brow. He prepared the face of a repentant, tortured soul. The elevator dinged at the penthouse floor. Liam walked to our door. He punched in the code. Beep. The lock disengaged. A wave of relief washed over him. I hadn't changed the locks. I was still waiting for him. He took a deep breath, opened the door, and prepared to deliver the performance of his life. Harper baby, he called out, stepping inside. I am home. I made a terrible mistake, but I am here now. He stopped. The words died in his throat. He dropped his suitcase. The sound echoed loudly, bouncing off the walls with a hollow thud. The apartment was empty. It was not just messy, it was barren. The furniture was gone, the curtains were gone, the expensive rugs were gone. There was nothing but the bare hardwood floors and the cold, gray light of the city filtering in through the uncovered windows. The warmth, the smell of home, the life we had built, it had all been scrubbed away. "Harper," he whispered, his voice trembling as the silence swallowed him whole. Where is everything he was standing in a tomb of his own making? And for the first time, the reality of what he had lost began to sink in. The only piece of furniture left in the sprawling penthouse was a rusted metal folding table I had bought for $10 at a garage sale. It sat dead center in the living room, illuminated by the harsh overhead lights. On top of it lay a thick stack of legal-sized paper and a single car key fob. Liam sprinted toward it, his footsteps echoing against the bare walls like gunshots. He did not look at the 3 cardboard boxes stacked neatly to the side, which contained his cheap, coconut-scented clothes. That was his only remaining equity. Instead, he grabbed the papers, his hands shaking so violently that he nearly dropped them. He flipped the cover page. It was not a letter of reconciliation. It was a court summons. The State of Illinois versus Liam Sterling for grand larceny and embezzlement of corporate funds. Beneath that was a civil complaint, Harper Vance versus Liam Sterling. It was a demand for restitution for unpaid personal loans, rent, utilities, and credit card debt accumulated over 5 years, totaling just over $82,000. His phone rang. The sound was deafening in the empty acoustic space. He looked at the screen, saw my name, and answered immediately. "Harper!" he screamed, his voice cracking with hysteria. "What is this? What have you done? You ruined everything. Hello?" "Liam," I said. My voice was calm, flat, and completely devoid of warmth. I sounded exactly as I did when I was presenting a forensic audit to a board of directors. "I suggest you read page 3 of the civil suit. It details the itemized breakdown of the funds you owe me, including the interest." "You reported me to my company," he shouted, spit likely flying from his mouth. "They fired me. They froze my accounts. I have nothing. You have your freedom," I replied. "That is what you wanted at the airport, isn't it? A break?" He looked down at the table and grabbed the car key. "I am coming to find you," he snarled. "I am taking my car, and I am coming to find you, and you are going to fix this. That key does not work anymore." "Liam," I informed him, leaning back in my chair at my new apartment. "What it is right here. The BMW was in my name. I was the one who signed the loan. I sold it to a dealership this morning to recoup a fraction of the debt you owe me. The tow truck took it 4 hours ago. That key on the table is just a souvenir. I thought you might want something to remember your former life by. You bitch," he roared. "You stole my car. I liquidated my asset. I corrected him. And you should know that Mr. Henderson, the landlord, will be there in exactly 52 minutes. I terminated the lease. He is coming to change the locks and inspect the unit. You are technically trespassing right now. I suggest you take your boxes to the curb before security drags you out." The line went silent for a moment, save for his ragged breathing. Then, the begging began. It was pathetic. "Harper, please," he sobbed, the anger instantly replaced by a whimpering desperation. "I have nowhere to go. My parents won't take my calls. I have no money for a hotel. Please, just let me stay at your new place. Just for tonight. I love you. We can fix this. There is nothing to fix." I said, "If you do not help me, I swear to God, Harper." His voice dropped an octave, shifting from begging to something dark and menacing. "I will find you. I will break every bone in your body." "You think you can humiliate me like this? I will kill you." I watched the audio waveform on my laptop screen as it captured every syllable of his threat. I pressed the stop button on the recording app. Thank you. Liam, I said. I was hoping you would say that. I just recorded that entire threat. I am emailing the file to my lawyer in the police precinct right now to secure an immediate restraining order. If you come within 500 feet of me, you will be arrested. No, wait, Harper. I didn't mean it. I am just stressed. Do not hang up. You wanted space to find yourself, I asked, my finger hovering over the end call button. You have no job, no fiancé, no girlfriend, no car, and no home. You have all the time and freedom in the world now. Good luck. I ended the call. The silence that followed was not lonely, it was victorious. The heavy oak door swung open, but it was not me standing on the threshold with open arms. It was Mr. Henderson, our landlord, flanked by two burly security guards from the building management team. Liam stood there, clutching his phone, his face a mask of confusion that quickly crumbled into terror. Mr. Sterling, Mr. Henderson said, his voice clipped and professional. Your lease has been terminated and the primary tenant has vacated. You are currently trespassing. Please take your personal effects and leave the premises immediately, or I will have the police remove you. Liam tried to argue, but the security guards did not have the patience for a debate. They stepped forward, their presence looming over him. Within 5 minutes, my ex-fiancé was being escorted down the hallway. He dragged his 3 cardboard boxes of coconut-scented clothes, looking small and defeated. As they waited for the elevator, the doors opened and Mrs. Gable, the gossip queen of the penthouse floor, stepped out with her poodle. She looked at the boxes, then at Liam, and then whispered something to her dog while shaking her head. The humiliation was total. He had spent years trying to impress these people, and now he was being taken out like the trash. They deposited him on the sidewalk outside the lobby, as if on cue. The Chicago sky opened up. It was not a romantic drizzle. It was a freezing, biting rain that soaked through fabric in seconds. Liam stood there, shivering, surrounded by his soggy cardboard boxes. He had no money, no home, no reputation, and nowhere to go. He looked up at the gray sky, his hair plastered to his forehead, the very picture of misery. Then, a sleek black sedan pulled up to the curb. It was a rental I had picked up an hour ago, a model far more expensive than the one I had sold. I watched him through the tinted glass. Liam saw the car and stopped shivering. His eyes lit up with a desperate, pathetic hope. He dropped his box and took a step forward. Harper, he mouthed, his face twisting into a relieved smile. She came back. I knew she would come back. He believed, right up until the end, that he was the prize. He believed that I was incapable of existing without him. I pressed the button on the door panel. The passenger window slid down smoothly. The warm air from the car's heater rushed out to meet the cold rain. Liam leaned down, water dripping from his nose, ready to climb in and be forgiven. He saw me sitting in the driver's seat. I was dry. I was wearing my favorite silk blouse and a shade of red lipstick that I rarely wore because he used to say it was too bold. Harper, he gasped, reaching for the door handle. Oh my God, thank you. I am so sorry. I knew you would not leave me here. Open the door, baby. I did not unlock the door. I just turned my head and looked at him. I searched inside myself for anger, for hatred, or even for pity. I found absolutely nothing. It was like looking at a stranger or a smudge on a window pane. The passion was gone. The hurt was gone. There was only a profound, icy indifference. He was no longer the man I loved. He was just a bad investment I had finally written off. Harper, he stammered, his smile faltering as he saw the nothingness in my eyes. Why? Why are you looking at me like that? Goodbye, Liam, I said softly. He lunged forward, slamming his hand against the glass as I pressed the button. No, no, Harper. Wait, open the door, he screamed, his voice cracking with panic. You cannot leave me here. I have nothing. Harper, The window rose steadily, shutting out his frantic screams and the sound of the rain. His face was pressed against the glass, distorted and desperate. A silent portrait of a man who realized too late that he had lost the best thing that ever happened to him. I shifted the car into drive and pressed the accelerator. The car surged forward, smooth and powerful. I glanced at the rearview mirror one last time. Liam was shrinking in the distance, a tiny dark figure standing alone in the storm, surrounded by wet cardboard. I did not feel a pang of regret. I did not feel the urge to turn back. I felt lighter than air. I turned the steering wheel, merging onto the ramp for Lakeshore Drive. The city lights of Chicago twinkled ahead of me, a million little stars guiding me toward my future. I reached out and turned on the radio. A song with a heavy, driving beat filled the cabin. I tapped my fingers on the steering wheel, humming along. The audit was complete. The account was closed. My life was finally my own again. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I would love to know where you are tuning in from. So please drop a comment below and share your thoughts on Liam's karma. If you enjoyed this revenge, please subscribe to the channel Lily Revenge Stories, like this video, and smash that hype button so we can share this victory with even more people.